Hi, I'm going to talk about the middle part of Moll Flanders from pages 90 to 98. And I want to talk about a couple of things, at least one of which came up in class on Friday, and the other we hinted at. I want to start by looking at a particular passage, and it's about how virtue is a luxury and not always just an aspect of your personality. So the passage I want to look at in this edition is on page 157 near the bottom. She writes, oh, had this particular scene of life lasted, or had I learnt from that time I enjoyed it to have tasted the true sweetness of it, and had I not fallen into that poverty, which is the sure bane of virtue, how happy had I been, not only here, but perhaps forever. For while I lived thus, I was really a penitent for all my life past. And then a few lines down, but I, prompted by that worst of devils, poverty, returned to the vile practice and made the advantage of what they call a handsome face be the relief of my necessities, and beauty be a pimp to vice. And then a couple of pages later, starting at the bottom of 159, like the last line, oh, let none read this part without seriously reflecting on the circumstances of a desolate state and how they would grapple with mere want of friends and want of bread. It will certainly make them think not of sparing what they have only, but of looking up to heaven for support and of the wise man's prayer. Give me not poverty, lest I steal. What she's saying here very clearly is that her ability to be virtuous depends upon her having money for food and shelter and the regular niceties of common life. And those things, of course, depend upon having, well, not of course, if to do it right, you are meant to have a husband also. And she points out here in the first part of the quotation that if she had been able to live in moderate wealth, she would really have been sorry, really have been a penitent, and really have been virtuous. She can't be that because she can't afford to be that. And this brings me to the second thing that I want to talk about, which is there's many examples, but the one that jumps out at me and maybe us most easily is how when she goes about her thieving, there's a point on page 179 where she starts wearing men's clothes. And it's not that that in itself is shocking, although it kind of is, but it emphasizes for us how much of what she's doing is a performance. Here, she's performing being a thief, which doesn't mean she's not one. It just, for example, helps us think about all of the ways that she dresses up or the different scenarios that she goes through when she's stealing, one of which is pretending to be a man. And then we can think too about how gender becomes performative, that to act like a woman is to perform one thing, or to act like a man is to perform another thing, just as to act like a virgin is to perform one thing, while acting like a whore is to perform another thing. And we don't want to mistake this as a novel that has a character with sort of psychological realism about whom we could like sort of theorize psychologically. But we notice that the entire way her personality plays out isn't so much as having some sort of core of being that could never be corrupted, for example, or that has a particular indisputable virtue or sin or vice or virginity, but that she's always playing whatever part she can and some are a lot easier than others, depending on what she needs and depending on what's available. Okay.